Alrighty, it is 4:03, so we are going to go ahead and kick this off for everybody who jumped in here early, who jumped in here late. Thank you for being here. We know you guys have limited amounts of time, so I will not talk that long. Jennifer Reardon here. I have known her for quite some time. She got introduced to me from another one of my presenters to present on tax strategy. And so, like I said, this is a selfish webinar for me. I'm looking forward to this because I'm not happy with my tax bill these days. And I'm sure you guys aren't either, which is why you're here. So just background on me, we're Empirical 360. We do marketing for attorneys, and we do these webinars for our clients and our list to provide value, right? So I have nothing here to tell you about us. This is all about Jennifer. She's going to walk us through her firm, what they do, and how they help people save on taxes. And so that is my introduction for her. I'm sure she'll give you a much better one for her, and I'll let her have the floor. If you have questions, drop them in the Q&A, and we will get to them at the end. Thank you for being here.
Perfect. Elliot, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk with everybody and share some of our tax strategies. So today we're going to talk about tax strategies for law firms, and what you don't know is likely costing you thousands of dollars. So here's a little bit. Well, if we want to, there we go. There we go. We'll figure out how to change slides. We'll get Jennifer on the technology eventually. So here's a little bit about me. I am currently the managing partner at Brown and Sterling. I started my career as a CPA and then got my master's in business administration. And then after about 20 years, I decided that I was tired of the black and white world of accounting and that I enjoyed the gray more in life. And so I went to law school, and then I'm a tax nerd. So I got my master's of law in taxation also right after law school. So a little bit about me personally. I've got 2 teenage boys and a darling little dog. Don't tell the kids the dog got the top picture here. It is what it is. Love those children, but the dog, he doesn't talk back as much as the teenage boys. Anyway, most of my education is split. I started my education in the Midwest, which is where I'm originally from, is Kansas City. I've been in San Diego for about 22 years, so this is definitely home. I have a varied background. I worked in public accounting, and then I've worked for Fortune 500 companies, Global 2000 company in their tax departments, and I opened my own law firm about 4 years ago. I do estate planning in one of my law firms, and then we do tax strategy in Brown and Sterling. So a little disclaimer for today. So this is an educational course. I know all my lawyers out there are going to appreciate this, that I'm not providing legal or tax advice. Before applying any of these strategies, you should consult with a competent tax advisor. So I am a lawyer, but not your lawyer yet. All right. Today, these are our kind of overview and objectives that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what is a tax strategist, what does a tax strategist do, and why do you need one? Then we're going to talk about the home office and how we can simplify having a home office deduction, and how we can legally have a home office and deduct that on a law firm business. Then we're going to talk about vehicles as a business deduction. All of us have to, well, most of all of us have to have vehicles. I have one client in New York who actually doesn't have a vehicle, but most of us have vehicles. And so we're paying car payments, we're paying insurance, car detailing, etc. We're going to talk about how to get that onto your law firm business as a deduction. Then we're going to talk about strategic family employment. So you saw my 2 darling teenagers. They also work for me. I do that because I want to shift income from my tax bracket down to my kids' tax bracket. So we're going to talk about how we can do all of that legally. So first, let's hop into what is a tax strategist. So when I talk about a tax strategist, I first talk about kind of an attorney versus a CPA. So a CPA is looking at the past. They are typically, I'm not going to say always, but they are typically looking at the past and not forward looking. A tax strategist is looking at what are your revenue projections, what is your profit margin, and how can we minimize your tax liability. It was interesting the other day, I had a potential new client call, and I always have my potential new clients send over their tax returns first so I can take a look at those. And on this particular tax return, the CPA said, give us a call in December and we can do some tax planning. That is not when you do tax planning. So if your CPA is telling you call them in December, that is not the way this should be working. Tax strategy should be going on throughout the year. So I'm going to talk about tax avoidance versus tax evasion. Elliot, you mentioned tax evasion when we were chatting beforehand. So tax evasion is bad, don't do it. Tax avoidance. So one of my favorite judges, and I'll tell you who the judge is at the end of this. I'm just going to read his little quotes. Anyone may so arrange his affairs that his taxes shall be as low as possible. He is not bound to choose that pattern which will best pay the Treasury. There is not even a patriotic duty to increase one's taxes. Over and over again, courts have said that there is nothing sinister in so arranging one's affairs as to keep taxes as low as possible. Everybody does so, rich or poor, and all do right, for nobody owes any public duty to pay more than the law demands. Taxes are enforced exactions, not voluntary contributions. To demand more in the name of morals is mere cant. So many of us maybe remember Judge Learned Hand from law school. That is one of my favorite quotes from Judge Learned Hand. The mere cant, that is absolutely fantastic. So a CPA, we talked about historical focus. So if you have a CPA or if you're going to interview a CPA, there's a few things that you should ask them. Ask them what they offer that other CPAs don't. If they don't mention tax strategy or tax planning, walk away. Ask about the preparer's process. How do they do things? How do they communicate? When do they communicate? If they don't talk about regular meetings, walk away. And then ask the CPA or preparer about their favorite tax strategies for small businesses. If they're like, keep those close at hand and don't share some of their favorite strategies, at least 2 or 3, walk away. And then ask the CPA or preparer how they feel about avoiding alleged audit risks and red flags. So you need someone who recognizes the risk of getting audited is next to nothing, and someone who's going to explain to you the potential outcomes and then let you decide what position you're going to take. So let me talk a little bit about our tax strategy program for small businesses. So what we do is we hire tax attorneys to be our tax strategist, and we utilize tax law. A lot of accountants and preparers are like, the Internal Revenue Code says ABC, therefore it must fit in black and white. However, as we all know who went to law school, the world is gray and there are things that can be argued. And so we are actually using tax law and not just relying on the Internal Revenue Code or regulations. So the way our program works is that we have an initial tax meeting that we go through about 12 to 14 different strategies. Today, we're going to go through 3, and then I've got a little bonus at the end for you too, which is one of my favorite strategies. And at the end of the initial meeting, we're actually doing a tax projection. We're looking at, so I just had new clients sign on a couple days ago, so we're meeting with them next week. We're going to look at what's your budget for 24, where's your projections, and then we'll do a tax projection based on that. And then after the initial meeting, we have quarterly meetings where we're meeting, those usually only take about an hour. And we're looking again at projections, trying to figure out what your tax liability is, and bringing new strategies to the table, depending upon your level of income. Additionally, we're always calculating your quarterly estimated tax payments. What drives me crazy is when the CPA sends you your tax return and is like, here's your 4 quarterly estimated payments based on last year. Well, who knows what they're going to do this year? You could have a sale event, some other big event that's going to drastically change your tax picture. The other thing that we do is ensure that you have a tax efficient entity structure. So most of our clients are S corporations, but there are times where a C corporation may make more sense. So we go through all of your entity structure and ensure that we're the most tax efficient. And then at every quarterly meeting, we are always bringing you opportunities to lower your tax liability. I had a doctor that I was working on a couple of weeks ago, and I love this particular one. I love all of my clients because I love what I do. But this particular client had a tax liability of about $335,000. By the time we were done with his quarterly call, we were down to a $25,000 liability. So there is oodles of strategies out there, and we can take advantage of all of those to lower your tax bill. What we also do is we avoid April 15th surprise tax bills. Again, I was meeting with a potential new client, and they were like, yeah, my preparer told me on April 10th that I owed $100,000. I can't, and that's really difficult. $100,000 is really difficult for most of us to come up with. So that's another thing that our tax strategy program for small businesses helps with. So we're going to jump over into our first tax strategy and talk about the home office. So this is where we're actually going to save dollars in your pockets by having a working office at your house. So for sole proprietors, which is Schedule C, there is a form 8829. There's a simplified method. It's pretty easy to fill out. And on a side note, if you are a sole proprietor Schedule C and you are making more than $60,000, you need to change your entity type to an S corporation. That's a little side note. So for our S corporation owners, then the way that you can have a home office is that it has to qualify as your principal place of business. So the question becomes is how do we do that? So you have to use the location exclusively and regularly for administrative and management activities for your business, of course. So what does administrative or management activities mean? That means that you're working from your home office, you're doing all of your HR from home. Those are not things that you're going to want to do in your regular office. You're reviewing financials, maybe with a fractional CFO or with your bookkeeper, also things you don't want to do at your regular office so that people can overhear things. So those are the type of administrative and management activities that you can do at your house. For those of you that are familiar with how to manage a small law firm, it's super easy. It's all your C-suite meetings and all of your CFO, your COO, et cetera. All those meetings you want to have at your home office, and that would count as being used regularly for administrative and management activities. And then part two of it, and it's a big and, it's not an or, it's an and, is that you have no other fixed location where you conduct substantial administrative or management activities for your business. So what that means is that you're doing all of your HR work, all of your bookkeeping work, all of the private things in your home office and not doing them at your regular office. And what I want to bring to everyone's attention, a lot of pushback that I get is, well, how can I have a home office and how can I have what I will end up calling in our next slide, an office office? And there's an IRS publication 587 that states that you can have more than one business location. So it's literally like a satellite office. So I've got my main office up in Falls City, Washington is where our main office is. But we got a satellite location down here in San Diego because I need to be by the beaches and it snows in Washington and I don't do snow. So that's what we mean by having more than one location, and the home office is just one of those locations. So then the question becomes, well, how do I calculate all of this? So this is my little home office expense worksheet. So what we do is we go through and we say, how many square feet is your home office? So for me, I recently moved and I'm using a dining room as a home office. So that is about 10 by 15, so about 150 square feet. The total square feet of my home is about 2280. And I'll be honest, I didn't remember the square feet of my home, even though I just recently moved. Zillow is a great place to get that if you forget. So then what we do is we take the total square feet of your home and multiply it times 80%. The reason that we do that is hallways, bathrooms, kitchens, not really livable space that you can use. And then we come up with the percentage of your home office. So in my case, it was about 8%. Then there are two different types of expenses. We've got direct expenses and then we have indirect expenses. On the direct expenses, like if you have internet directly into your home office, I don't think people do this as much anymore. I think because the internet's gotten better in theory. So if you have a direct line of internet into your home office, that could be a direct expense. If you're using the internet that fuels the rest of your house too, that would be an indirect expense. If you have a separate telephone or a fax machine, so I tease my business partner, Larry, all the time because he still has a fax machine at his house. The IRS still requires us to fax is the reason for that. But if you have anything that is a direct expense, like you have somebody who comes into your house and answers the phone in your home office, that would be a direct expense. So that would go in this section B. So what I recently redid is my home office. So the furniture you buy for your home office, the paint, the wallpaper, the decorations, all of that would be a business expense and can go on the direct expenses associated with your home office. So for me, it was about $5,000. Hang on to receipts, hang on to your documentation that is necessary for this. And then what we do is we go through on the indirect expenses and say, okay, my mortgage payment or my rent annually is about $90,000. And then my property taxes are about 8,100. You guys can read the rest of these numbers. Housekeeping. One of the things I do is have a housekeeper come once a week. Side note, that is life-changing. Especially with two teenage boys, absolutely life-changing. And then I have pest control. I live in San Diego. We have little things that crawl around that I do not want in my house. So what you do is you add up all of those indirect expenses, and then you multiply those times line 4, which is the percentage of your home office. In my case, that comes out to about $10,000. So in total, I have a home office reimbursement of about $15,000. So my law firm literally writes me a check. I do this on a monthly basis. You can do it monthly, you can do it quarterly. I don't love annually, although I do have a few clients who do that. It's not my favorite. And I literally write a check from my law firm that says home office reimbursement. And let's just say we were doing it annually. And I would write the check for $15,305. So that is a deduction to the law firm and money in my personal pocket that I'm not paying taxes on because it is a reimbursement. So that is the legal way that we can go through and have a home office and then kind of how you do the calculation. All right, one more thing about the home office I want to talk about. So this is where we're going to start talking about your home office versus your office, which is like your regular office that I'm in today. And what can happen is when you travel from your home office to your office, you're increasing the business usage of your vehicle. And this is literally in the IRS publication 17 that this is allowed. When you're going from your principal place of business, which we talked about is the home office, and another work location for the same business, you can deduct those expenses. So that is going to lead me over to deducting vehicles as a business expense. So what's interesting with a lot of clients, when I have a new client, where we go through the balance sheet and I'm like, all right, where are your cars or car on your balance sheet? And most of my clients are like, well, my CPA told me I couldn't do that, or it's titled in my personal name, so I didn't think I could do that. So let's talk about how we can legally do that. So for a vehicle to be a business deduction, it has to have business usage of more 50% or more. But again, we just talked about from the home office to the office, and that counts as business mileage. And so that's going to increase your business usage. And then we can deduct all of the actual expenses: gas, oil changes, repairs, maintenance, customization. I drove up to Washington last summer from San Diego, and I have a Tesla Model 3, and so it's got that big sunroof over the top. Ridiculously hot for my kids on the way up there. So when we got up to Washington, I had all of my windows tinted, and I used my business card, and that was a deduction for my law firm. I also spoil myself and I get my car detailed once a month, which is also a deduction on my law firm. And then you can also get depreciation. I want to have a quick conversation about depreciation. So if you buy a vehicle that is over 6,000 pounds, you can depreciate 60% of it in 2024. However, the House has passed a 2024 tax bill that is sitting in the Senate that will raise that to 100%. So if you're looking to buy a car this year, wait until the Senate. Hopefully the Senate passes it. It's bipartisan, so everybody thinks it will pass, but we'll see. Then you could get 100% depreciation on the law firm. So 2 years ago, the bonus depreciation is what this is called, was also 100%. And I had clients left and right going out and buying, very expensive cars. And Cadillac Escalade seemed to be the big one for a while, and then it went over to the G-Wagon, seemed to be the next one that everybody was buying. And they were getting 100% depreciation. I literally had one client who bought a $250,000 G-Wagon that had a $250,000 deduction a couple years ago on their tax return. Huge tax savings on that. What I do not suggest is that the tax tail does not wag the whole dog. So if you don't need a new car, don't go buy a new car. But if you're thinking about a car and are considering kind of an SUV or higher, gross vehicle weight is what that is based off. The 6,000 pounds is gross vehicle weight. It is not curb weight. Those are different. And what I also want to talk about is you can have more than one car for business. So my business partner, Larry, is up in Washington. And so in the winter, he drives his big truck. Thankfully, he's got like handles so I can climb in and out of that thing because it's got the big wheels and everything. And so he drives that in the winter. And then in the summer, he has a Jaguar that he drives, and both are business vehicles. And he's got more than 50% business usage in both of those. So let's talk about how we want to hold the title. So if you're going to lease the vehicle, typically you want the lease to be in the name of the law firm. If you are going to purchase the vehicle and you have a high usage, like you're driving, 30,000 miles and it's all business, then you're going to want to put it in the name of the law firm. But if you are not driving high miles and you're not leasing, then you can put it in your personal name. So I have a Honda Pilot and I have the Tesla. Both are business vehicles. And my Honda Pilot, both cars actually, are titled in my name personally. The business is allowed to deduct any business ordinary and necessary business expense. And the titling doesn't matter. It helps bolster that it's a business expense, but you can still have them in your personal name and it can still be a business deduction. My only caveats to the how you title things is if you title things in the name of your law firm, your insurance is going to cost about 25% more. However, if you title it in your personal name, you need to make sure that you have a writer that covers that you're driving it for business also. So that's what I did with mine. I've got State Farm. And so with State Farm, I called up and I said, I'm using it for business. They added a writer. It was cheaper than doing the law firm auto insurance because, again, that was about 25% more. And the other caveat is that if you do a loan, and you can still, let's buy a $100,000 vehicle, and we are going to get a loan for all of it. Let's say you could do that. Then you can still depreciate it at the 60% this year. Having a loan, it doesn't make a difference. But loans for law firms versus loans for you personally, the interest rate can change. So you've got to consider all of the different factors and make the best decision. So a question I get often is tracking and substantiation. So how do I prove that this is actually a business vehicle? And so what we suggest to our clients is that you use some kind of tracking app. I didn't realize this until I was researching things the other day. ClickUp actually has a mileage tracking app. Solo is another one that was highly recommended along with Gridwise. But then if you've got QuickBooks, there is a mileage tracking within QuickBooks that you can actually use also. So you're going to want to track for at least 90 days. And then what you can do is extrapolate the 90 days out to the entire year. There is case law that allows taxpayers to do that. And so obviously I want to pick the 90 days that are the highest business usage. So if you don't go to court in summer, if you don't do a lot of business stuff in summer, don't pick summer. Pick the quarter that you're going to have the most business use. So that is how we legally deduct business vehicles. Let's talk about strategic family employment. So we're going to talk about kiddos, and then we're also going to talk about spouses. So we want to employ our children in the business. They actually have to do work. We can't just give them a paycheck. They actually need a job description. But what we're doing is we're shifting the income from your tax bracket down to the kids' tax bracket. The kids' tax bracket is going to either be 10% or 0%. And then what we do is we actually have the kids pay for their extracurricular activities. I got video gamers for kids, so it's not really that expensive, thankfully. But I know that there is horseback riding lessons that are ridiculously expensive. I also have heard that hockey is a very expensive extracurricular activity for kiddos. And then what we also do is we set up a Roth IRA and we put $6,000. It's gone up to $6,500. I'm still in 23 because I'm still prepping 23 taxes. So we're going to put money into a Roth IRA also. The great thing about a Roth IRA is it can be used for education expenses without penalties. So I call it a backdoor 529 plan, but I like it better than a 529 plan because you're not stuck having to spend it on education expenses. So let's go through an example. So this is where you would employ your children. And in this example, we've got Susie, who has writing lessons that are $1,000 a month. This makes me thankful that my kids don't have extracurricular activities. And obviously, horseback riding lessons, not a deductible expense on your law firm. And so what you do is you hire Susie. Susie comes in and my 18-year-old was in last week shredding like crazy. Not his favorite thing to do, but that's what he did. And then what we do is we're going to pay Susie $1,167 a month to work in our business so that she can take care of her writing lessons herself. So the way this kind of works is that as a law firm owner, you'd have to make about $18,000 to pay the $12,000 in expenses. We assume about a third goes to taxes. So the way this works is that Susie's going to get a W-2 for $14,000. The standard deduction when I did this example was $12,950. For 24, it's $14,600. Just so that you've got a point for what that is for 24. So her taxable income was just over $1,000, which put her in the 10% tax bracket at $105. We've got payroll taxes. So we've got FICA, Medicare, that comes out to $1,070. So her total taxes are about $1,175. And so our savings is $4,825 that we are saving by shifting our income from the parent to the child. And the net cash out to the kiddo ends up being just under $13,000. So now Susie is going to learn some valuable life skills. And does anybody write checks anymore? Write a check, get her own little debit card so that she can pay for her writing lessons and feel what it's like to start paying for these things. My caveat to this is that you've got to watch your state employment laws. So I am in California, and my kids to work for me are required to have a work permit, which means they have to have C's or better at school. And so you've got to follow your state laws. So make sure that you're following all your state laws. The other way to shift income to kiddos is to pay them as a 1099 contractor. So when kids are under about 18 and younger, I suggest the W-2. When they go off to college and need to pay for college, then we do something a little bit different. So in this particular example, we've got Maya who works for the law firm. And over the summer, she comes in and she scans and shreds all of the paper files. And we pay her a flat fee of $30,000. It has to be a reasonable fee. Like, you've got to get quotes on it would cost this much. I can't just pay my kid $30,000 because that's what she needed for tuition. There needs to be substantiation behind that. So in this example, Maya's got $30,000 of income. We've got the standard deduction. So she has taxable income of about $17,000. Her 10% tax bracket is about $1,700. So the net income to Maya is just over $28,000. So for a law firm owner to pay the $30,000 in tuition, they would have to make about $45,000, assuming about a third is going to taxes. So the law firm is getting a deduction for $30,000, and so that's saving about $10,000 in taxes. And Maya is only paying $1,700, just over $1,700 in taxes. Absolutely amazing. One of my favorite things to do. The only, I got caveats, because the devil's in the details on all of this. So you do not want a child that is on W-2 and 1099 in the same year. So if you have a kiddo that's going into their senior year and they were on W-2 previously, as of January 1st, stop the W-2, switch them over to the 1099. All right, we're going to talk about employing your spouse in the law firm. All right, so the reasons to employ your spouse in the law firm: we maximize retirement plan contributions. So literally, if they're 50 or older, they can put around $30,000 into the 401k, which I hope everyone has retirement plans. And so you want to pay them around $35,000, $36,000 to maximize their retirement contributions. This also allows the spouse to qualify for Social Security benefits. They have to have 40 credits, which is about, credits kind of go by quarters. So it's about 40 quarters of work. And then they could also get some fringe benefits if you're paying cell phone reimbursements, things like that. And then if you have an education benefit plan, the spouse could also, at the law firm, the spouse could also tag on to that. So that's how we are employing our family in the business. I'm going to hop on to my bonus and my favorite thing that we do, and then I'm going to wrap up so we've got some time for some Q&A. So the Augusta rule, it's under Internal Revenue Code Section 280A. There's going to be a quiz in a couple minutes, see who remembers that. We're kidding. Only us tax nerds love this stuff. So the way the Augusta rule started is at the Masters tournament, and people were renting out their houses for the Masters tournament and making a significant amount of money. And so the government came in and said that homeowners can rent out their home for up to 14 days a year, and they don't have to report the income. So we flip this. We make the law firm a short-term tenant rent your residence. So why would we do this? So every year, my business partner, Larry, has a Christmas party at his house. Absolutely lovely. And the law firm pays Larry pays rent to Larry for using his residence. The beautiful part is it's a deduction to the law firm and is not income to Larry personally. So I'm saving taxes and I'm not paying more on the personal side. So you just have to think about, what can I use my personal residence for that the law firm could rent it from me? So educational events, you're going to have some CLE, have it at your house instead of the office. If you are going to, like we talked about, the Christmas party, 4th of July party, whatever the case may be. The other thing that I have a lot of clients use it for is video production. So they're doing their Instagram reels, their TikTok, their whatever marketing, and they're using their house for that. So I always get a question about, well, you talked about homeowners. This works if you rent your house also. Ownership is not required, just possession and control, which also means that if you have a timeshare, it could work for the timeshare also. So you've got a timeshare in Aspen, and you're there for a week, and you decide that the backdrop of the mountains is going to be perfect for your marketing. And so you do some video shoots there. You could also have the law firm pay you for the use of your Aspen condo that you have with a timeshare. What does not work is community rooms at condos or apartments, because you really don't have control and possession over those. So those do not work. So that was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming. And it looks like, Elliot, we've got a few questions. I just can't see them.
Yes, we do have some questions. Before we get to those, it looks like I can't put it in chat. So if you want to get a hold of Jennifer, which I will be getting a hold of her after this, you go to brownsterling.com and there is a link. Am I right, Jennifer?
There is. So if you go to brownsterling.com and then it's /new clients, but on our homepage, you can also find the new client page too.
Yep. So go there, check it out. In the replay of this webinar, I'm going to be sending out the Excel doc that she included for the home office tax deductions, which, as you were talking about that, I was looking at the one my tax company gave me and it was garbage. I'm like, well, great. There we go. I just lost money. And so I'll get to the questions because we already have some coming in. So one question is, are the S Corp or C Corp structures available in California? I'm in the process of starting a firm and thought there was only one way to set up the firm.
Oh, no. So in California, you have to be a professional corporation. So we've got the legal entity part of this, and then we have the taxation of the legal entity. So in California, you have to be a professional corporation. You can be a PC, an APC. There's a variety in that. But then you can choose to be taxed as either an S corporation or as a C corporation. To be honest with you, I have 2 clients that we're setting up C Corps for, but out of the rest of our hundreds of clients, everybody's an S Corp. So that is likely what you will need as an S Corp.
Perfect. Next one is the car depreciation is with respect to ownership only, correct?
I'm not sure I understand
I
that
think probably
question.
versus lease, and
Right.
whoever's
Oh,
put that in there.
okay.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So if you're leasing a car, you don't get the depreciation, but you get to deduct your lease payment. If you buy the car, then you get the depreciation deduction. So yes, now I understand what they're saying.
Okay, and then Adita, if you want to, I've you, it wasn't time stamped. Is this allowable in California? I think it was in regards to hiring your children, which you're in California, so I think it
Yeah,
is.
so I'm in California, and so you've got to watch ages. So mine are 16 and 18, and so I just have to have the work permit, and I can't have them working at like 9 o'clock at night. If I've got a couple great employment attorneys in California if you need additional help beyond that.
Perfect. Yep, keep the questions coming. Apparently, a lot of questions here. Why be an S corp rather than a Schedule C if income is less than 60,000?
So if the income is less than 60,000, keep on your Schedule C. But if your income is over 60,000, the reason is when you're a Schedule C, you're paying self-employment taxes on all of your income. You make $100,000, you're paying $15,300 in self-employment taxes plus income taxes. When you're an S corporation, what you do is you calculate your reasonable salary. Let's say you're making $100,000 and your reasonable salary is $20,000. You're only paying those self-employment slash payroll taxes on $20,000, and then the $80,000 is only subject to income tax. So you're literally saving a lot of money by becoming an S corp. But the reason I say for under $60,000 is because there's tax prep, there's administrative cost, and all of those fees add up. That the math doesn't work out till you're about $60,000.
Next question is, do you have some strategies for high net worth and high income earners? All these are really great, but what if you're in the millions for tax liability annually?
Absolutely. So we absolutely we've got solar credits that we work on. We've got a fee simple investment that are for my high earners. I've got clients that range from about $250,000 in net income up to hundreds of millions.
I would say book a call on that one. I forgot the name who came that one who came through. How about trips in which you take your staff on a trip? For example, treating them to a cruise at the end of the year in lieu of a Christmas party. Can I work for you, Christina?
Right. I want to come on the cruise too. I'm sure you need your tax strategist to go with you. So that it's a business expense if you're taking your entire staff. The only caveat I have on cruises is there's IRS limitations on how much it can be per person, but it's like $800, $900 a day. So it's hard to get to that limit, like unless you're booking. I guess there's a new Ritz-Carlton
I was going to
cruise
say the
ship,
Ritz Carlton.
right?
All right, so that answers that. What is the age limit to hire your kids?
So that's going to be state specific. I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately, because it depends on your state.
Okay. What about my 2-year-old? No, I'm just kidding.
So
Can
no, I have 2-year-olds all the time, Elliot. They're models. You
I was going to say
laugh.
I can use him in my ads. Everyone on here is going to start seeing my 2-year-old. He's getting written off. He's costing me too much.
Absolutely.
Can a law firm pay the school tuition for a child who is joining the firm started by a parent? Tax advantages? Question mark.
So can higher education or private school for lower?
Whoever that was, it was an anonymous question. Can you elaborate on the school one? I'll circle back.
Perfect.
I have a virtual law firm, barely drive to court, work 100% from home, and in restaurants when I take my work from phone or laptop. Any strategies?
So that's where you're going to want to make sure. I mean, maybe they don't even have a car. Um, there are a couple of other strategies there's lots of other strategies that we use that we're just not covering today.
Yeah, I would say book a call on that one. That one might be a little
Yeah,
too in depth.
there is, like I mentioned, we had to go through 12 to 14 strategies in our very first call, and we
All
went
right.
through 3 today.
All right. That's good to know. What are tax advantages for professional corporations versus sole proprietorships?
So again, it comes to the taxation if we're going to tax as an S corp or a sole prop. So that kind of, I think we answered that with our comments earlier.
Okay. Can we evade taxes? We can't say evade. Can we avoid taxes if I
Avoid.
have a person in another country doing home office?
So you're wanting to, I'm just make sure so like it's an employee or a VA or whatever,
I would assume so,
and
yeah.
we're wanting to give them a home office reimbursement. Is that what I'm hearing?
It sounds like it, Fernanda, if you
It's
can
a business
elaborate.
expense. Yeah, it sounds like a business expense. So yes.
Okay. And if you need to elaborate at the bottom, let me
Yeah.
know.
If that wasn't the
Can
right answer, like for
Yep.
whatever.
Are companies incorporated in Delaware have any specific tax benefits? That might be
There are
too
not tax
specific.
benefits, there are corporate benefits. So the shareholder laws in Delaware are much better than any other state. That is why large Microsoft, all the large companies incorporate in Delaware, but there are no tax benefits.
That's above my pay grade. I'm booking a call with Jennifer. Like I said, I start to gloss over it. It gets like I can't follow it. I'm not smart enough. Next one is I came in late. Shame on you. What is too little W-2 payroll for owner law firm in order to minimize Social Security and Medicare tax? What's a reasonable salary? Until now, I have been Schedule C earning around 500K.
So reasonable salary is we go through a whole calculation on that, and it depends. It depends. Best law school answer ever on what work you're doing. Are you doing more administrative work? Are you doing more lawyering work? And it's a whole calculation we go through that is kind of beyond the scope today. So
Right.
I can't just say, like, I have one client, we'll talk about this one client who works in his business maybe 10% of the time. So his salary is like $30,000 because he's just not working in the business that much.
Very good. Big fan of Jennifer. Yes, we've seen a lot of law firm clients benefit from her great advice. Oh, that was just a statement. Thank you. They love you.
Thank you.
Next one is I'm thinking of converting from a PAS corp to an LLC. My income is above 200,000. I don't have employees, only 1099s. Should I convert or should I be an LLC S corp?
I would be a likely an LLC S corp, but there's probably some more factors in that that I would need to know. Book
Okay.
a call,
Book
as
a call.
Elliot would say.
Yeah,
I'm happy to have a conversation.
like I said, I'm booking a call. Can you please explain again how you arrived at the 8% for the home office expense worksheet? I'm going to put the worksheet in the replay, and it was just a factor of the square footage versus your home, if I'm answering that. Hopefully, I knocked
Perfect.
that out for you. I paid attention. My staff just came in from a trip to Belize. Adalola, we need to talk. I'm working for you. And that was my question. Is the entire trip tax deductible if our children came as well?
So you got to be careful with children. Like, what is their business purpose for being there? And the business purpose is, well, they're too young. I can't leave them at home. They have to come. That is not a business purpose. So even though my kids work in my business, um, like when I go to how to manage a small law firm's quarterly meetings, then unless they have a business purpose for being at that meeting, their trips are not a business deduction.
Would a purpose be education if they're there to learn about it?
No,
All
you
right.
got to be really careful with that.
All right, there you go. Evasion. We're getting into evasion tactics. My current CPA offers me no strategies, me either. Can you represent an AZ or offer a referral?
Oh, absolutely. So my clients are across the country.
Sure.
I've got clients in Arizona now. I've got clients in Florida, all over the place.
There you go. Can you set up an educational benefit plan for your child who become a lawyer and join your firm? Are there tax advantages, educational benefit plan?
So you can set up educational benefit plans for employees, but you've got to be careful because you cannot discriminate. So you can't be like, my kid gets it and the lawyers don't get it or whoever else doesn't get it. So there's some rules around that.
There you go. And then the follow up was, i.e., pay the child's tuition.
So again, go back to the 1099 slide and follow that advice.
All right. Chris Lowe emailed you. Great, Chris. And then Adam says, if I work with my spouse who is a member of the LLC and we talk shop, yes, this is a great question. At our vacations, can we deduct those vacations / business retreats?
So documentation and substantiation. Why is the spouse there? What are you talking about? Um, and if you're in North America, you have to have at least a 50% business purpose. If you're in Europe, you have to have a 75% business purpose. So back to my it depends. Lots of facts and circumstances.
That's interesting. Yeah. Any other questions? I know there's still a lot of you in here. I just ran through the list. We have about 8 minutes of Jennifer's precious time. So Can a law firm pay for the law school tuition for a child who is joining the firm? Oh, that's already there. I was supposed to elaborate on that one. Sorry. And I think you did. Any other questions from anybody? Otherwise, Brown Sterling is the website. I'm going to email out this replay with the Excel sheet for the home office, so you'll have access to that. And I'll also put her website in there. Is a business purpose to get away from the house and have a business retreat? Is it a business purpose just to get away and have a business retreat?
But what are you going to do in the retreat? Are you doing mindset work? Are you working on a budget? Are you doing strategic planning? Are you planning out your marketing with Empirical 360? Like, what are you doing? That's the business purpose of it. Where you do it is less relevant than the what you're doing.
We got a couple thank yous. Any good reading articles, websites, books on this topic?
No, I'm going to write a book though. So, because
All right,
I
so
think
stay
there just
tuned.
needs to be a book out there.
Stay
Yes.
tuned. You know all the boring books in the library, like all the volumes. I think that's what I picture when I think of the books to read.
Oh,
Uh,
no, no,
not
no boring books with
not
me,
boring to
Elliot.
you. Thank you. Great seminar. All right. If there's no other questions, maybe we'll be here. We go to claim the expenses for the law firm. Should all recipients slash bills be in the name of the S corp?
It doesn't have to be. You can do an expense report. So, for example, I paid a business expense over Venmo. It accidentally hit my personal account instead of my business one. And then all I did was an expense report back to the law firm to get them to reimburse me for it.
All right. Since no one's asking, I got a selfish question. If I
Absolutely.
drive to place with my business partner and we talk the entire time about business, would that help the car
Where are you
be
going?
the
Where's the place?
the gym
You're going
where
to,
we film video for business?
right. Like you got it's all in phraseology, Elliot. Come on.
I,
Yes.
I'm
But
looking at Call of
a
Duty.
gym membership is not deductible, just so we're clear.
Not even for health benefits. It helps me de-stress. If a Mexican,
Oh,
I'll let them answer. I don't want to be selfish. If a Mexican wants to study law in New York and she also works for my firm, can we also include that as a tax deduction?
so you can provide education benefits up to $5,250 a year that could be used for that. You cannot write a check to NYU or whoever for $30,000 and get a deduction. You cannot do that.
And that would go back to them working in the firm and paying them. And
Correct.
very nice. All right. I don't see any other questions. I think that's the most questions I've ever had on a webinar like this. Any others before we jump off? You will get the replay. You can contact Jennifer. So we'll wrap it up. Jennifer, thank you so much. This was awesome. I look
Thank you,
forward to
Elliot.
speaking with you personally, and we will hopefully have her back sometime in the future.
Sounds
All
great.
righty. Bye, everybody.
Bye.